Welcome to the New Jersey Bike Walk Coalition Safe Network webinar. We'll get started shortly. We're still admitting people. Thank you for joining us on this Wednesday, May 21st, 2025.
Look at that. Okay, let's get started, shall we? I'll keep hitting people. Welcome, everybody. I'm Deborah Kagan. I'm the Executive Director of the New Jersey Bike and Walk Coalition. Welcome to our Safe Network webinar today on micromobility. We recently had our summit, and I know there was a lot of interest in having a session on micromobility, and we were waiting for the publication of DOT's New Jersey Micromobility Guide, which has now been published and is available on a website that Greg will share that link with you in a little bit. So we wanted to introduce you to the guide. Greg is going to walk you through a little bit of that, but we also wanted to talk about how the guide can be used for your town, for your municipality. Like what is the usefulness for the guide? There's a lot of questions and issues that come up around micromobility. And there's also legislation that has been introduced. And in some cases in local legislation, it's been introduced to limit the use of micromobility. So we want to talk a little bit about legislation. We have Noah here from Peoples for Bikes, who's going to talk about some legislation, and he works on policy for Peoples for Bikes. And we have Mike Manzella here with us from Jersey City to talk about sort of a case study of what does this look like on the ground in New Jersey, in one of our most populated cities. We will be recording this, and we will post the recording on our website. So if you have to leave, or if you want to come back and review, it will be under the Safe Network tab on our website. And I just want to let you all know there is a day-long conference on micromobility that Keep Middlesex Moving is doing, and we'll also put that link in the chat. So there'll be 3 presentations, and then we're going to have Q&A at the end for about 15 minutes. If you have questions while the presentations are going on, please put them in chat, and we'll try to get to them during the Q&A session. Thank you all for joining us. Paul?
Thank you, Deborah. And just a general reminder to please keep yourself muted. Sometimes we accidentally unmute ourselves and have some background noise, things like that. So thank you for joining us. We will continue to admit people in. And as Deborah mentioned, we have a few speakers here who will be sharing some slides, talking a little bit about this manual and the ramifications, how to best use it. And we'd like to start off, well, we have Greg Woltman, Research Project Coordinator for the Alan M. Voorhees Transportation Center, and Noah Miturko, Senior Manager for the State and Local Policy for People for Bikes, and Mike Manzella, Transportation Planning Director of Jersey City. He will be joining us a little later as well. We would like to start off with Greg. Greg, if you would like to begin talking about the manual. Thank you.
So does this look right? Yes. Okay, so hi, my name is Greg. I'm going to be walking through our recently released New Jersey Micromobility Guide, which summarizes state laws and best practices for safe riding, charging, and storing micromobility. By providing tips, answering common questions, and clarifying how devices are regulated, the guide serves as a resource that promotes safe and legal use of e-bikes, e-scooters, and other forms of micromobility throughout New Jersey. This project was funded through the New Jersey Department of Transportation and was released through the NJDOT Bicycle and Pedestrian Resource Center, which is housed at the Alan M. Voorhees Transportation Center, which is housed at the Blaustein School of Planning and Public Policy, which is part of the Rutgers, the State University of New Jersey. So that's me, in case you needed another picture of me. I am a research project coordinator, which means I do research and I coordinate projects. Let's start with a definition of micromobility, just to get us all on the same page. In our guide, we define micromobility as a range of compact electric and human-powered devices designed for short distance travel. This definition includes a variety of devices, such as traditional bicycles, e-bikes, e-scooters, and other low-speed wheeled devices. In a moment, we'll go over the specific categories of devices we included in the guide. So why this guide? Why do we think this is necessary as a resource? There are many reasons. First, micromobility is becoming more and more popular. In recent years, micromobility options like e-bikes and e-scooters have become increasingly common. Additionally, many communities in New Jersey are expanding their active transportation networks. They're putting in bike lanes, they're striping them, they're protecting them, they're implementing trail plans and expanding their trail networks. These active transportation networks increase the safety of riding micromobility by providing space for bicyclists, e-bikes, and e-scooters, and as well as pedestrians. And in many times it's separated. So with that, it is also increasing the popularity and commonality of micromobility. And third, and most importantly, micromobility regulations are very technically written in the law and can be hard to find, hard to understand as a whole set of rules. So we are trying to, and they are not common knowledge. So we developed this and published this resource to be kind of a unified resource of information for users and for people who work with users or work with the networks. Additionally, why now? There have been new laws in New Jersey that have been passed. So in 2019, there was low-speed e-bikes and low-speed electric scooters were added into the statute, NJ Statute Title 39, which deals with motor vehicle traffic and traffic laws. So by being added, they have become their own categories and are regulated in many ways similarly to bicycles, but in other ways in their own special, super duper interesting ways. Additionally, in 2022, the state legislature passed and Governor Murphy signed the Safe Passing Law, which is mostly puts the responsibility on drivers to safely pass vulnerable road users, which does include micromobility users. So this guide is for everybody. Everyone who uses New Jersey's roads in any capacity, so that is pretty much everyone in the state, but there is special focus to individuals with limited mobility, delivery workers, young people, older adults, people who want to be more eco-conscious, planners and policymakers, and drivers. They all have a vested interest or a responsibility to be knowledgeable about micromobility when they either use it themselves, may decide to use it, or need to interact with them on the road. So in New Jersey statutes, there are 11 device types that we've identified and that we have defined within the guide. Each of them is given a bit of attention to make sure that it is clear how they are regulated. And so it's not just an umbrella term. There are these 11 device types that are specific and important. And it's important to know where your device falls if you use a specific type of device. So for each of those devices, we have a sample page, or we have a statute page, which is a one-page cheat sheet, effectively, of everything that you could possibly or hopefully need to know about a specific type of device. So this is, for example, the low-speed e-scooter. You see at the top, we have the statute definition and specific narrative about what you need to know specifically about these devices. And you can and then below it, we have specific characteristics, requirements, and allowances for the use of this specific device. So, for example, a low-speed e-scooter is electrically powered. It can be kickstarted and throttle, or it has kickstart and throttle as its propulsion methods, and its maximum assisted speed is 19 miles per hour. So if your device meets the criteria here in these 3 items, as well as the definition above, it would be considered a low-speed e-scooter. If it does not, there may be another device that is more appropriately defined, or it may be out of definition where it's not in the statute and would therefore not be a legally defined and statutorily protected device. In that case, you're not necessarily riding something that's street legal, and it could open you up to confiscation or other enforcement actions beyond just a moving violation. Additionally, on here we have requirements, minimum age requirements, helmet requirements, license registration requirements. Some devices have those. And if you have that type of device, this will help you identify what your needs are. Additionally, if it's allowed on shared use trails, public streets, parking, and if it can be parked on the sidewalk as opposed to being parked in the street. And then on the right here, we have when is it allowed on transit? That takes up a lot of space because we have a lot of different caveats and information about specific types of transit service providers. There are many in the state, and there are many different subcategories of NJ Transit that have they have variable rules that we've tried to outline for each of the devices as best as we could. Specifically for e-bikes, there are 3 classes. Many people, you may know this already, but class 1 and 2 e-bikes, the only substantive regulatory difference between them is that a class 2 e-bike, it can be used by throttle exclusively. You can use a throttle exclusively to accelerate it, whereas a class 1, it is pedal assist only. Class 3 e-bikes are, and class 1 and 2 are specifically low-speed electric bikes. That is what was defined in that law. Class 3 e-bikes are specific other type of e-bike, which is more akin to a moped in its regulations. And they are defined as a motorized bicycle. We have a page on these as well. And they can go from 20 to 28 miles per hour. If it goes above that, it is no longer this category. It would then be maybe a motorcycle or another type of device that would need to be defined otherwise. So our guide also highlights best safety practices, or safety best practices, excuse me, in these 7 categories. So general safety, speed limiters, what to know about them, shared micromobility services, what to know about them, preventing lithium-ion battery fires. We have a few pages on that. Riding on trails and off-road facilities, securing and parking devices, and then more about transit. So just to focus on general safety, this is more or less out of the League of American Bicyclists talking points, but number 1, follow the law. 2, be predictable. Be as much as you can, ride in a straight line, for example, or scan and use hand signals before changing lanes or turning to make sure that everybody around you knows, who can see you, knows what you're going to be doing. It's a defensive technique and it's very, very helpful. Being visible, you should use cautious when riding on sidewalks because it can obscure your visibility for people in driveways and on the road. Additionally, using a front white light, a rear red light, and having a bell, that is the law in New Jersey. And if possible, wearing bright colored or retroreflective clothing. Those are best practices. Thinking ahead, you should anticipate what other road users are going to be doing. And then riding ready, being prepared to handle a snafu if something happens. If you have flat, if you need to repair your bike, you can have a certain lightweight set of tools that can help you with your most common issues. So speed limiters, we generally and almost unilaterally say don't modify your speed limiters on devices because number one, it's illegal to do so. Number two, it is a liability to you because it voids the warranty. If your device then breaks, you don't have a recourse through your warranty anymore. It degrades your performance. Your device, if it had a speed limiter installed on it, is designed to go at that design speed. If you make it go faster, you can damage the battery, you can damage its hardware, you can damage its brakes, and that can pose a safety risk. Your brakes will not respond the same at 25 to 30 miles per hour if it's a 19-mile-per-hour scooter. So all the more reason not to do that. So now you know, and on a local sense, it removes, for users, removing a speed limiter opens up the rider to confiscation, voided warranties, and safety issues. So that's just really important. I really want to make sure that's known. Lithium-ion battery fires are preventable. The primary causes of them are use of low-quality batteries and chargers, and or improperly charging. So improper charging means overcharging or using incompatible replacement batteries or chargers. Other less common bad causes include improper storage, tampering, prolonged use, also known as overexertion, age and degradation, and poor maintenance. The best ways to prevent a lithium-ion battery fire are to buy and source high-quality batteries, charge safely and within your manufacturer's instructions, store them safely, which means in a cool, dry place and away from direct sunlight or where they may block the means of egress or fire escape routes. It's not necessarily a preventative measure, but it is a safety measure for your own preventative safety. Inspecting your device regularly for wear and tear is also important. If you see visible damage, that's a good note to maybe not charge it and take it to be repaired, serviced, or replaced. And if you have an old or damaged battery, to dispose of it safely and within your local regulations. We also talk about riding on trails and off-road trails, on other off-road facilities. So according to Title 39, low-speed electric bicycles and e-scooters are generally allowed where a bicycle is permitted. So if it's a bike trail, then you are generally allowed where that bike trail allows bikes. However, there is an exception, which is that the trail owner, so if it's a municipal trail or a county trail, whoever owns it, they do have a right to restrict the trail to specific types of device, to only traditional bicycles or to no bicycles at all. It is within their prerogative, so you should check the local regulation. There's also another exception for natural surface trails. So if it's a dirt path or something that is not paved, that would be another way where by default, it is not open to e-bikes. However, there is an exception to the exception of this, that the trail owner can permit e-bikes on that trail anyway, because they do have the prerogative to regulate their trail and the devices on it. Additionally, regulations for shared use paths and boardwalks vary by municipality, so you should always check with your local regulations before riding. If you'd like more information on this, the Bike Pedestrian Resource Center just released an updated Biking Along the Jersey Shore, which is a new blog article that we've had it in the past, but we did just release it again with updated information on everything. Oh, that was the wrong one. You can scan the QR code for that. Securing and parking devices. So our guide addresses securing and parking, especially on sidewalks. Best practice is to park upright and in designated areas if available, and on racks if available. And that it's important to avoid blocking any means of egress, or for blocking sidewalks, curb ramps, or bus stops, places where people need to step on and off of transit, or need to step through. It's also important to bring loose items with you. And for e-scooters, it's important to remember to lock through a non-removable part of your device. So know where that is on your device and make sure that you are keeping it secured. Traveling on transit, we have 5 general rules. Lock it and leave it. So if you can avoid taking it with you, leaving it at your origin or origin station is better because it does avoid having to bring it with you and take up extra space on the vehicle. Know before you go. Understand. You can refer to the cheat sheet for how that specific transit mode regulates your type of device. Almost unilaterally, if it's a gas device, it is not allowed on a transit vehicle. All that folds is gold, or if it's folded, it's golden, is another way I like to say it now. If it's a folding device, a lot of agencies will be more forgiving of those, and their regulations reflect that. And courtesy can take you a long way. I really want to stress that being a polite and conscientious road user does not end on the railroad or on a bus. If you have a device that is bulky, you really need to do your best to avoid taking up extra space because that reflects poorly on everybody. And we are, as bicyclists, pedestrians, and micromobility users, need to reflect positively on our group.
That's
So
great.
where can
Greg, just want to just check in about how many slides do you have left?
I'm at the end.
Right there. Okay, thank you.
Where can I find the guide? At this QR code or on our website, njbikeped.org. We also have additional resources on that website and on the Safe Routes website about micromobility if you're interested. And you can find our contact information for both of those resource centers here. Thank you. That's it for me.
Awesome, Greg. That was fantastic. And thanks for sharing the links. It's a great resource. And it just shows you how complex these things are getting. They're only getting more complex. They're not getting simpler. And that leads to a whole lot of other issues. Noah, we are pleased to have you join us today. Really curious to hear what's going on around the country regarding policy, because really this is about, what are the implications of all these different new devices? And I really do truly believe they're part of the solution. So if you can share a little bit about People for Bikes and the policies that you're seeing, both good and bad. And I'll just remind folks as you're getting prepped there, there was a bill that was brewing last year that we got a lot of people to get behind and push back on, and feel pretty comfortable that it's been put out to pasture, which would have basically lumped Class 1 and Class 2 bikes in there with Class 3 bikes requiring insurance and registration, which there is no device for doing that in the state of New Jersey anyway. So that would have been a really bad e-bike bill. And thankfully that is not moving forward. And we want to keep on the lookout. So this manual will be helping us with this and be looking at what's happening in our local municipalities. So Noah, I will leave it to you. Thank you. And you just need to
All right, as always, can everybody see my screen first?
Yes.
Cool. Well, thank you very much, Paul, for having me today, and thanks for that, Greg. That was an excellent walk through the guide, and I think raised several good points about the explosive growth of micromobility and also some of the gray areas that lie above Class 1, 2, and 3 e-bikes that are creating some challenges at the legislative level. But to introduce myself, I'm Noah Materko. I'm the Senior Manager of State and Local Policy at People for Bikes. Being the manager of state and local policy means I get to work with my colleagues across all 50 states, working with great groups like the New Jersey Bike and Walk Coalition to monitor, support, and when necessary, oppose or amend state level legislation that could harm biking, bike infrastructure, anything that creates barriers for people getting on bikes. So if you're not familiar with People for Bikes, we are the U.S. bike industry's sole trade association. So that means we are an industry member association of about 330 member brands. So we are working with these brands to help tear down barriers to getting people on bikes, to protect bike business and to protect bike infrastructure and do all of those wonderful things. So these companies range from very large to very small and everywhere in between. So we do advocacy, we do business representation, we do all types of good things. And there's really three core pillars of our work. The first is infrastructure. So we have a couple tools that I'll go through, like the city ratings and the Great Bike Infrastructure Project. The goal there is to accelerate construction of safe and connected places to ride bikes all across the country. Policy, which is really a lot of what we're talking about, in addition to infrastructure at the state legislative level. So we help create, track, and advance pro-bike and pro-bike business legislation at the local level, state level, and federal level, both legislatively and through regulatory agencies. And last, of course, is participation, making sure that we're helping new and more people get on bikes, people that might otherwise have barriers to that. We work with bike share programs. We work with youth coalitions to help bring more people into the joy of riding bikes. So as Paul mentioned, I work on legislation all across the country with my team. So I wanted to start at a high level of some of the trends we're seeing at the mostly state and local levels all over the place. And the first one would be battery safety legislation. And this is largely a backlash from some of the really devastating and dangerous fires that we've seen from mostly illegal or out of compliance medium format lithium ion batteries in products that I would say are mostly billed as e-bikes, but are not falling into the regulated legal class 1, 2, and 3 e-bikes that we have. These are instances where we unfortunately saw in New York City, a lot of them, lithium ion fires that can be runaway and really just devastating and deadly. So as a result of those issues, state legislatures have taken it upon themselves to really address that issue. But unfortunately, there's a lot of conflation between products out there. So while the correct thing to do is to, of course, make sure that all e-bikes have safe and legal batteries, and those systems are not going to light on fire for any reason. There's been a lot of legislation that targets storage or the battery standards themselves that create unreasonable standards. And we get concerned about those because, for example, we've seen I believe it was in Camden just a few weeks ago, an ordinance that will now ensure that, or mandate rather, that if you live in a multi-unit building, you're not allowed to store your e-bike inside if there's 2 or more units in there, which is unreasonable if you have a legal class 1 or 2 e-bike that is incredibly unlikely to catch fire. So we watch those bills, and I'll talk more about what we're doing to address those concerns and make sure that batteries on e-bikes are as safe as possible. Another trend we're seeing is infrastructure. So without going into it, there's a lot of uncertainty at the federal funding level when it comes to protected bike lanes, complete streets, all things like that. A lot of those grants have been put on hold, and who knows what's going to happen. There's also a lot of political backlash in different states around and municipalities around things like protected bike lanes. And this comes from not necessarily maliciousness, although that could be part of it. There's a lot of misinformation, misunderstanding around the importance of infrastructure, bike infrastructure, not only to cyclists and pedestrians, but to making streets safer for all users, including vehicles. And the third trend, I think that maybe is as much or more than the first two, is really going to continue, is the definition of e-motos, and Greg touched upon this gray area above the class 3 bikes. So there's many high-speed throttle-powered vehicles that exceed 30 miles per hour and fall outside those standard classifications, and they're often mistaken or mislabeled as class 2 e-bikes. And we see this a lot with the not only with, but it's been publicized with deliveristas riding vehicles that are not what we would traditionally call e-bikes, that go really fast, and those create safety challenges for folks walking around and on e-bikes. So we'll talk about how we're addressing those. So examples of good state legislation, and I wish I had all the time in the world to go through lots of bills today, but we'll keep it high level. So federally, this important context, the Consumer Safety Product Commission is unlikely to be an effective rulemaking body moving forward. We had been working with them to set national lithium-ion battery standards for e-bikes. That is probably not going to happen. So unfortunately, that means we are going to have to work at the state level to make sure that the bills passing are actually addressing the issue and not unintentionally creating a situation where you can't buy legal e-bikes, which can certainly happen. So we've been working, one example is we've been working with Illinois on a bill, Senate Bill 2247, which creates e-bike battery standards. This bill did not start out great. It had a couple problems with it, but where we are now is it creates a standard for the UL standard 2849 or EAN standard 15194. And those are the gold standard for e-bike battery systems safety. There's millions of e-bikes out there with these standards. They're rigorously tested, and I don't think there is a single instance of fires coming from bikes that are properly charged and stored and not used after flooding or things like that with these standards. So this is a piece of model legislation that we're probably going to have to work on at all 50 states. And this can help preempt bad battery legislation. It can at the state and local level. So this is probably something we'll be working on in New Jersey. Infrastructure-wise, first, I do want to give kudos to the state of New Jersey and municipalities across the state. You all, in many instances, are far and away more advanced than a lot of states and municipalities when it comes to safe biking infrastructure. But one ordinance out there at the local level that I like to point to for other places is the Cambridge Cycling Safety Ordinance. It just mandates separated bike lanes and specific streets. It uses a typology to make sure that we're looking at each street in a way that can be safe for all users. And there's accountability built into that. And I could certainly point at lots of instances in New Jersey where this work is being done as well. And the point about that, and I'll jump into our city ratings program. That's how we rate how a city's connected bike infrastructure is. We can look at that bill and see that it rose the score from 31 to a very impressive 58 just by doing these handful of things. So we'll dive into that. And some other good state legislation, California and the National Highway Transportation Safety Administration are creating definitions to draw a clear line between e-bikes and e-motos. And that's really good because it can help fill in that gray area where these products that are a lot of times illegally and unregulated coming in from different Asian markets that are being billed as e-bikes that are going to go too fast for the infrastructure we have or create fire problems. This legislation is creating definitions around those so we can categorize and regulate what these vehicles are. Right.
Excuse me, Noah, just quickly,
Yes.
are these good examples on your website somewhere? If people want to reference them?
They will be, and they're largely not listed right now. Since we're getting through legislative sessions, we're going to release a memo at the end of the session that I will share with all of you, and I'll invite you all to another webinar that we're going to have in July when the dust has settled, if that's helpful. But we don't have the live tracker right now.
All right, thank you.
And thank you, Paul. So we were talking about the value of infrastructure, and there's a lot of misconceptions about there that we're seeing. We're seeing a lot of backlash around, hey, this is slowing the flow of traffic. This isn't really doing anything. It's expensive. And unfortunately, there's instances out there where bike lanes are being removed. But the lack of bike infrastructure, lack of that safe, protected lanes is the most significant barrier to riding a bike. More people worry about being hit by a motor vehicle than they did 5 years ago. The data and research has shown us that streets with protected bike lanes experience 90% fewer injuries per mile than streets without the bike infrastructure. Cities protected with bike lanes experience 44% fewer fatalities and 50% fewer serious injuries compared to average cities. So the bike lanes are making roads safer for everyone, including people in vehicles. So when we talk about this in different political markets, we will want to emphasize that this is good for drivers and it's good for everybody else as well, not just for cyclists. And the economic point, the cost savings from averting crashes and related injuries typically far exceed the original investment for bike infrastructure upgrades. So those are all really important points that we want to hold on to and that you all do a really great job of emphasizing. And I want to share with you all our city ratings tool if you're not familiar with that. It's a comprehensive initiative designed to evaluate and compare the quality of bike infrastructure across cities. And so we can compare city to city throughout the world. And this measures on safe connectivity. And the goal, one of the goals is to help actual city leaders and planners and advocates identify the strengths of their individual city and also find areas for improvement in their local bike networks. And we can really go at the granular level on that, and I'll share this resource as well. And the back end of that tool is the bicycle network analysis. It shows how effectively a city's bike network connects people to those really critical destinations like schools, your jobs, shopping areas. Because if you put bike lanes around, obviously, and they don't connect to anything useful, then they're going to be empty. So more kudos to New Jersey. This is the top 5 bike city ratings that we have in New Jersey. These are obviously various small and medium-sized cities, but you can click in on Hoboken, for example, and see what's doing well and what things could help raise that score. But 56 to 70 are pretty incredible scores. So the principles behind this building and what we want to share with decision makers and leaders is building low stress bike networks with those protected lanes, the bikeways and the trails, and enhancing that connectivity to improve access to those critical destinations and making sure it's usable for all people. Greg did a really good job going through the guide. We have some other resources for creating more awareness around bike and e-bike safety. We have one specifically for e-bike riders. That's our e-bike SMART program. It's a safety education program for riders that teaches you how to use your e-bike responsibility. It covers battery charging and storage, helmets, riding skills, a lot of the ones that Greg mentioned earlier. And then we also, for coalitions like New Jersey Bike and Walk Coalition, for members, we have those resources to share and distribute educational materials at any time. So I can share those as well with you all. And then another tool we have is our Advocacy Academy. That's an online video series specifically for city leaders, decision makers, and advocates that provides tools and information about how cities are evaluated through the city ratings program and how we can take these models and apply it to our individual cities to make them better and safer places to bike. And I think I'm probably about at time there. So I wanted to thank you again for having me today, and I'll be around for questions, and I will share these resources. I mentioned earlier in mid-July, we're going to do a policy webinar that as all the legislative sessions have wound down, we're like 3/4 the way through across the country, I would say. Once the dust settles, we'll have a rundown of what bills passed, what can be model legislation, and what kind of trends we're looking at, how we can be proactive all across the country next year. And then I have these resources that I can share with this PowerPoint as well. So with that, I will kick it back to Paul.
Thank you, Noah. And just as this safe network is a resource for all fellow advocates around the state, People for Bikes is a great organization, and you're doing the same thing nationally. So it's great to hear and to be able to share all these, examples of great legislation and/or policies that are taking place, and it just makes it easier, right? Share all the good stuff and lessons learned. So thank you very much.
Thank
so
you.
Mike Manzella, Director of Transportation Planning in Jersey City. I think Mike said, I didn't see Jersey City on that list of cities. And
Jersey City's doing all right.
We'll work on that ranking, Noah.
Okay, thank you, Mike. It's all you. What are you experiencing?
Hi, everyone. Mike Manzella, Director of Transportation Planning for the City of Jersey City. Before I start, I just want to acknowledge Eli Gooseman and Lindsay Schofield, who are also on the call, colleagues of mine in transportation, who have been part of this really great work that we've done in Jersey City. I'm going to talk a little bit about how Jersey City has really embraced micromobility for all the benefits that Noah and Greg were talking about. And, because it meets the goals that we've developed as a city in terms of sustainability, transportation safety, focusing on multimodal transportation, and all the benefits that come with that. To that end, since 2019, the city has had in place very strong bicycle and pedestrian master plan documents, which have resulted in infrastructure. As a city, we have really, again, focused on micromobility as a way to accomplish and achieve goals that we have in terms of multimodal transportation and transportation safety, including our Vision Zero action plan, which was also adopted in 2019. Since that time, the city has installed over 23 miles of protected bike lanes in an effort really to promote micromobility as that really important first and last mile transit and really transportation for everyday needs for all users. Additionally, one of the biggest ways that we have embraced micromobility is by standing up a bike share program that reaches a large part of the city. In 2015, the City Bike was launched in Jersey City, and in 2020, Hoboken joined the New Jersey program for City Bike. Currently, we have 83 stations across Jersey City and Hoboken, with a really strong increase in recent years in terms of the number of e-bikes, as they are just another option for folks for people to get around on some of our hilly streets, for folks who really need that assistance, and they're proving to be popular. And that includes our ridership overall across the program in the last 4 years. Just last year, we had a 6% increase in total ridership over the year prior. And as you can see in the bottom graph, the e-bike percentage really has grown significantly over the past few years due to demand for those devices and City Bike responding by adding those devices to our fleet. So we're now at just a little over 50% e-bikes in the fleet, and the ridership or e-bike usage in the system has well exceeded 50% now. Additionally, not just shared mobility, but also promoting the use of personal micromobility. In July of 2023, Jersey City was the first city in the country to launch a citywide secure bike parking network through our partners at UNI. There is a plan to install at least 30 locations across the city of secure bike parking dedicated to personal micromobility devices. Thus far, we've had 6 stations installed, with a 7th coming online very soon at the Grove Street Path Station. Each of these locations also has the option for charging. We have done that at least 2 locations, which I'll talk about in a second. And these locations are a mix of sort of higher capacity pod locations that are secured by phone device access to get into the facility, as well as just a more sort of standard dock location that is also accessed by mobile phone with locking mechanism built in, and at least one of our mini locations, which holds about 7 bikes and can be placed in what is essentially the size of a parking space, a vehicle parking space. So in our first full year, which was 2024, of the Secure Bike Parking Program, we saw really great results that really speaks to how much folks really want to see some more secure bike parking, and how it is sort of a missing piece of getting more of a modal shift to micromobility. There were over 21,000 parking sessions at these 6 stations in 2024, almost 700 unique users. You could see the sessions by station and also peak occupancy at some of our locations. We are now exceeding 100%. 3 out of the 6 locations are exceeding 100% peak occupancy, which just tells you that we need to increase the supply, and the demand is really there for secure bike parking facilities. Additionally, and just 2 months ago, the city just stood up an e-bike battery swapping program and facilities at 2 of the locations where we have secure bike parking provided by UNI. This was done through a partnership with Swabi. And the way it works is basically any users can pay either $2 a day or $60 per month and have unlimited battery swapping, which means they don't need to provide their own battery. They don't have to, carry second batteries. And this really, at least initially has really been something that's been of service to a lot of our growing e-bike and e-scooter delivery services. So it's been, just a little over a month. These are some some key facts over the first month. We have 2 stations stood up with 27 batteries, and there's already 20 active users. And that's with, limited opportunity thus far to really do a lot of public engagement and public awareness around the program. That's already seeing a strong demand with over 700 swaps in that first 30 days. Additionally, we're exploring some other opportunities to create secure or battery charging and swapping hubs that are safe, that are off street, that are not indoors. Where we've initially been talking to companies like Pop Wheels that we hope to maybe either work with on private property or through a partnership with UNI to look at opportunities to create these sort of centralized charging hubs and charging cabinets. And there's different technologies. Swabi has a lithium phosphate kind of technology. Pop Wheels uses the the more traditional lithium ion technology. And Pop Wheels has a lot of the fire suppression capabilities sort of built into these devices. They've just launched the first location like this in New York City. So we're looking at opportunities to do the same here in Jersey City, maybe hopefully in the future. We don't have a lot of data yet in terms of sort of where we stand in achieving our goals that were set out in the 2019 Bike Master Plan in terms of that modal shift to bicycling. We actually hope to do that very soon. We just kicked off a transportation master plan or an update of our circulation element where we're going to be looking at big data sources and other sources to really quantify what that change has been. But if you just walk the streets of Jersey City on a day-to-day basis, you will definitely see a super high demand and a modal shift towards not only bikes, but e-bikes and e-scooters, and a real proliferation of, as I said, the delivery apps, the Ubers and Uber Eats and DoorDashes of the world, really growing in terms of usage in Jersey City, to the point where we have hundreds of standard conventional bike racks installed all over the city. But as you can see in this photo at our Grove Street Plaza, it's not enough space. We just don't have enough bike parking available for this growing demand that continues to grow. So it's something that we have to try and address, in a rapidly evolving environment in terms of what kind of shifts we're seeing. One of the ways we've tried to do that very quickly and nimbly is just to designate some commercial bike parking locations in areas where we have already built curb extensions, where parking is already prohibited throughout the city, and just to designate them as commercial bike parking in our commercial areas, knowing that there's just an extremely high growth in the numbers of these kind of devices. So we've just started doing that and have limited results. We are thinking a little more holistically to see if we can find funding and sponsorship to create sort of more, more aesthetically pleasing and I guess more higher capacity sort of bike parking infrastructure for commercial bike parking in particular, as it is, something that continues to grow, with amenities for cyclists who are doing these deliveries. Because as we know, if we don't support this sort of option, then the alternative is that more delivery drivers are going to be driving vehicles, cars, and that's just going to add to, it's going to go against some of the goals that we have as a city, and will create more traffic congestion and safety issues. So we really do want to try and promote e-delivery as much as possible, balancing sort of the needs of everything in our commercial districts.
Amen to that.
Thanks, Paul. One of the other concerns I think that we get a lot as a city is just the safety of a lot of folks, especially doing e-bike and e-scooter delivery. Many of whom may not be from this country or may not have, had this same kind of sort of education of how to ride safely. So we as a city have been starting to take that on. The city council did adopt a new ordinance that puts the onus on the commercial delivery providers, the Uber Eats and the DoorDashes of the world, to provide safety vests and safety materials for these drivers. Before we start to focus on enforcement, we're trying to do the education piece. So our team developed a sort of set of recommendations, regulations, safety tips in both a brochure form and an email form that we call Pedal Smart. And we've been able to, through our partnerships with Uber Eats and DoorDash, that has been emailed out and distributed to all of their drivers on their platforms. We also are planning on later this month or maybe early next month, holding some in-person sort of opportunities where the companies will be there, sort of handing out the reflective safety equipment. And we'll also be able to provide that this safety tip information to really hammer home to folks that we want you to do these deliveries on 2 wheels, but we want you to do it safely. And here are just some tips on how to do that. So that's the approach we're taking when it comes to education. And then, as I said, the landscape continues to rapidly evolve in Jersey City. Uber Eats has launched a pilot sort of robot delivery program. So we're constantly having to adapt here to new and exciting ways that our streets are used, and hopefully continue to focus on the safety of all users. So with that, I'll stop there and take any questions.
Awesome. Thank you. And as always, Jersey City, thank you for leading the way with all these great demonstrations, from the bike swaps to the parking and battery swaps, not the bike swaps, and the bike parking. This great examples. And I said amen to that because I've seen in just a short period of time the difference in, an increase in the number of e-bike delivery, food, Uber Eats type deliveries versus the cars double parking to go get the food. Much better, it helps. So it helps everyone driving cars as well who may not be ordering out. That's great. We have just a few minutes for question. I want to throw out a question to Noah in particular, in terms of, is there some inevitability or policy that we should be looking at and anticipating, 5 years down the line? Whether it be insurance and registration, things like that for e-bikes. For the e-bikes to be truly a part of the solution, we need to scale it up. So it's great to see what's happening in Jersey City to scale up the park, to scale up the bike, to address the issues. Anything that you see on the horizon that we should be looking at?
That's a really good question, Paul. And I want to touch back on the things like e-bike registration, licensing requirements, license plates. Those pop up everywhere all the time. And I think they continue to pop up, and they have been fought back through really hard work. I think what needs to happen to make sure that doesn't become a continued growing trend, and that we can pivot to focus on the positive bills to help keep things growing in the right direction, is continued education to lawmakers about what really the problems are and the problems aren't. And also, I think that continued education part through advocacy, and then also I think a secondary part of that will be, I do think that the e-moto legislation will be a big trend over the next few years. And I think that's an opportunity where we have the ability to shape model legislation to draw a clear line between everything that is not a low speed class 1 and 2 e-bike and isn't necessarily a moped. If there's anything in that gray area, that has a clear definition around it. And we're working closely with the Motorcycle Industry Council to help develop that model language. But I think between education and passing bills around those definitions, we can dispel this idea that we need to be creating new insurance products, or we need to be doing this and that to address e-bikes, which aren't really necessarily the cause of the problems that people think about when you think about the problems they're trying to address with those, and I think a lot of that is, a throttle bike that's going 28 or 30 miles per hour in a bike lane. That's a problem. It's not going to be addressed through tightening regulations on existing legal e-bikes. So I think that's why I see the e-moto legislation as a real opportunity to help solve multiple problems at once. Some other trends I think we need to look forward to. It's not as I just think there are opportunities at the federal level, but things that we thought might happen at the federal level are going to have to happen at the state level. And I mentioned the battery legislation earlier. I think that's something that's relatively straightforward. I say that knowing it's not, but that's something that we can use as model legislation to help solve multiple problems like the ones we're seeing about restrictive storage or charging rules or anything around lithium-ion batteries. So I think those are things that we can help get ahead of in the next couple of years, and we have the opportunity to work with the New Jersey State Legislature to address.
Great, thank you. Corey, I see you have a question.
Yeah, it's also on the topic of education. So, in urban areas, we're seeing a huge wave of backlash against e-bikes, particularly conflicts on sidewalks with pedestrians, particularly senior residents. And a lot of those seniors are on a totally grassroots level calling every elected they can get a hand on to do something, right? So, we know the data, we know that it's safer to have more people biking than driving. But I'm wondering, if there's good convincing research or good, talking points or something, like what's the best way to sort of correct that record, right? Like, I feel like talking about, well, cars kill a lot more people than bikes do. It just doesn't really land because it's not addressing their concern, which is like, I feel unsafe on the sidewalk. And I'm curious, what the best practice there is in terms of responding.
Well, I think in Jersey City, we've had some success in, trying to channel some of those concerns about sidewalk riding into building more infrastructure dedicated for cyclists and e-bike riders. I think we try to take the approach of like, yeah, we agree. It's not great that there are bikes on sidewalks, but where would you like them to ride? And I think in doing that, that's sort of like trying to try to redirect some of that anger to like, let's be productive about it and let's build a place, for them on the street to be.
I guess what it's turning into though is people are like, let's just criminalize it, let's punish them harsher, let's get rid of them, right? Like, and it's not just sidewalks, right? It's running red lights, whatever. It's a million things. But like, how do we, get them to see e-bikes as part of the solution the way that we see them? Is, I guess, really what I'm getting at.
Well, I think it all speaks to benefiting the traffic calming for all road users, especially in those urban areas where I find when I'm riding, in congested roads, it's congested and everything's moving slower, so it's easier to get along. So if we can get everyone to go slower, maybe some of these e-bike riders wouldn't be as likely to be riding fast on sidewalks, and they'd feel more comfortable getting out there in the lane like a motorcycle, in 20, 25 mile an hour speeds. But this has all been really, really great information. If anyone has a question, would like to raise their hand, happy to have you unmute and ask that question. It's, we see the concerns, and as you said, Corey, the stats are there. I think I shared the stat that there's more people killed by vending machines in the US than by electric bikes, which obviously there's not a lot there. And the real cause of concern are drivers. Patrick.
Hi. I had my question and I'm blanking. I know what it was. So as an advocate, one of the things that I've run into is, besides just, kind of people who don't understand the value in some of this stuff, is people who will claim to support these sorts of, bike infrastructure, but will say that the Department of Transportation often is onerous and to deal with, and that getting this sort of infrastructure built just takes so long, and it's on a time scale where like literally we're not even treading water, we're falling behind. And I'm wondering, as a statewide organization, what NJ Bike and Walk or what any of the speakers think about like ways to sort of get faster at building this stuff?
If I may, I think
Go ahead,
that,
Greg.
thanks. And then I'll let Mike say it because Mike is actually the person who's been successful at building things fast. But the challenge with the challenge in New Jersey is that yes, the state does have, or it is Bike Walk Coalition is statewide. Our resource center is statewide, but state roads are a very limited number of roads. A lot of important roads, a lot of large roads, a lot of roads that have high crash rates. But it depends on the owner. The road owner is number one. And yes, things take a long time to build. It takes a long time to do anything at this point. There are conversations, hopefully, and in as far as I can help it, to see what can be done to make the permitting process easier and to make things more systematic in their implementation so that they can be done per se, like in repaving. Mercer County has at least in 2023, we lauded them for their bike lane repaving projects, where when they touched a county road, they would consider implementing painted bike lanes just as part of the remilling and restriping process. And what that was able to do was expedite and normalize that part of the implementation of bike infrastructure on county roads at a little bit of a faster rate, because it did not need to be like this bespoke kind of process. And that's generally what I would recommend, is implementing complete street policies and ordinances at the local and county and state level, which allow this kind of work to become more part of the day-to-day and not so much of a bespoke, special, unique thing that has to be kind of contexted in.
Thank you, Greg. Mike, did you want to add anything to that?
Yeah, I think the New Jersey Target Zero Commission is a really great opportunity to have some of these discussions. And I know a lot of the folks on this call have already been involved in those discussions. Now that the NJDOT is leading, is a leading force on the Target Zero Commission, I think there's an opportunity to explore how transportation gets funded and how these the alternative mode infrastructure gets funded, right? And I think, as Greg said, it's very, jurisdictionally specific. We've been fortunate to have the opportunity to be able to do a lot of projects in a very quick build fashion using on-call contracts, where we do have federal grants to build some of this infrastructure, but as you said, the process just takes way too long. So we do it in a very quick build fashion, just with striping and delineators. So hope that's helpful.
Well, thank you. And I know we are a little bit over time here from our 1 hour commitment. I want to take one more question from Margaret, and I understand if people have to bounce. Margaret?
Sorry, I had to unmute. I'm from Berkeley Heights, which is in Union County. In the chat, there's a question from somebody in Westfield, also in Union County. Most of our major roads are county roads, and they don't have bike infrastructure. But my specific question is about kids. We have a lot of teens that are now using e-bikes, and they use them like they walk or use a regular bike. But because they're faster, they often take drivers and other pedestrians by surprise because they essentially come out of nowhere. So they do the equivalent of jaywalking, going diagonally across multiple lanes of traffic because they look and don't see anybody coming, but then somebody turns on from a side street. So What are other municipalities, or what advice can you give a municipality about kids on e-bikes? Scooters too,
Well-
it's not just the bikes.
Yeah, I'll address that one. That is, understandably, that's concerning. And we have that happening in a lot of towns. And one of the things that we're looking to try to do is to try to offer some better education and training for families. So we recognize that it's challenging to get the people that need the training to the training. But in the case of teenagers, perhaps we can leverage the parental influence there. To offer some training, because some of these riders haven't even had driver education yet, so they don't understand. And we want to focus on courtesy and safety and awareness that these younger riders just don't have. So we want to try to work with local law enforcement to have an education element and not just a citation and restriction of bikes and taking the bikes away. We want to offer that. So we'll see online training and some limited on the bike training to help with that. Greg?
Also, I hear you're in Union County, so I can't tell you exactly off the top of my head who your Safe Routes coordinator is, but if you're working with children and looking for bike education resources and outreach into schools, they are a good resource. Union County is either Avenues in Motion or Easy Ride, depending on where you
Yeah,
are.
it's Easy Ride.
Um,
I
sure.
think it's Avenues.
Oh.
We already work with Avenues in Motion for other, pedestrian safety stuff. We have the safe routes, groups at the schools, but the kids on the bikes and scooters are just a whole new thing. And we're paused for the first major accident.
Yeah.
So, any advice you can give, online trainings are not going to cut it for, families and kids. It needs to be engaging, interactive, mandated. I don't know. We're struggling.
Yeah.
In the 2022 bipartisan infrastructure law expanded safe routes to be eligible for high school programming as well. So that is a lead I can offer you, is that they can
Okay.
if you're looking for additional outreach into the high schools now, especially with e-bikes and e-scooters, that may be a place we can kind of direct to get that outreach directly to your community.
And Margaret, I'll reach
anything
out to
on-
you.
Okay, anything on middle school, because these kids are, our biggest problem is kids coming from the middle school to one of our play fields. And they have to go through town to do that, and it involves multiple parking lots, and they just do what they want. So, we are looking at having a police officer on a bike, perhaps. At least they could keep up with them.
Oh,
But
Margaret, I
yes,
will reach out to you offline
Great.
with some
Perfect.
resources. Thank you.
Thank you.
And thank you so much, everyone, Greg, Noah, Mike, for coming on, giving us your time on this very important topic. It's only going to continue to keep growing. I appreciate you hanging on there a little longer. And for everyone joining us, thank you so much. If you do have a question that did not get addressed here, please, Deborah would like to say something. She's unmuting.
I am unmuted, hopefully. Yeah, I wanted to thank everybody. Very quickly, Leanne did put in a resource around micromobility and youth education from the Safe Routes Resource Center that's in the chat right now. Thank you, everybody, for coming. Again, on the question that was brought up about bike ped infrastructure, there are, in addition to the Target Zero Commission, first of all, the Target Zero Commission is looking for input, for ideas, and you can email them
Greg,
directly.
thank you. Share that link.
Yeah, Greg, would you put that link in? I'm terrible at talking and typing at the same time. So any ideas? They're gathering that information right now, so that would be really helpful. There are some efforts going on at county levels to start thinking about complete streets policy, which feeds into the whole idea of having a faster process for infrastructure, how to implement safe local safety action plans along with complete streets plans. And there is a new report also out of Bike and Pedestrian Resource Center on low cost proven countermeasures. And Greg, if you could put that in.
Yes.
So yes, it takes a really long time to do this infrastructure. There are strategies available to do it for low cost, quick build, like striping, like Mike was talking about, using bollards, using planters and different things that are not hardscape infrastructure that can be really helpful in short term, and also helps to educate people about the importance and how this works, and is this a good place to put a bike lane. So all of those sort of low cost demonstration projects and quick builds are really great strategies right now, especially as we're unsure about a lot of the federal funding that's coming out. So again, this webinar, a recording of it, along with any slides that our speakers share with us, will be posted on our website under the Safe Network part. And I just want to, again, thank our speakers, Mike, Noah's gone, and Greg, for some great presentations. Really, I don't know if you've been following, but the feedback in chat has been really positive about what you all presented today. So thank you so much, everybody. And
Thank you.
email us with further questions. This is an ongoing conversation, and we are looking to build out our resources to help everybody continue the conversation, come up with good, positive strategies to enhance the use of micromobility. Thank you.